And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in business with a community showdown between Zeiston and Riffle Shuffle. So a very interesting Dark Elf build coming in here. It looks like it is going to be the very uncommon pick of Malekith on his Velociraptor. Granted, he's armored, going to be a little bit more durable than Wrathy would against like Chameleon Skinks and Solar Engines, things like that. And he still has Soul Stealer and Gaze of Malice, both of which are pretty good against dinos. But the main thing that really caught my eye here when I saw this replay actually are the elite infantry. So in total, we have 2 Blackguard, as well as the Sisters of Slaughter and Hargoneth Executioners. So very, very elite for sure. I mean, that's a massive portion of the funds of the army here, and some very heavy-duty troops. And they are going to be overloading one flank as well. So we'll see how that goes. Now, as far as the Lizard build goes, fairly traditional. I mean, double Solar Engine with Chameleon Skinks just harassing. And in the back, we have Lord Mazdamundi, of course, very, very meta. Probably something that kind of comes and goes depending on the player, of course, are the Cold One Spear Riders here. But against Dark Elves, they can hold their own. Basically trade evenly with the Dark Elf equivalent and can fend off Dark Riders and mobility and all that sort of good stuff. So yeah, the rest of the Dark Elf build, though, is going to be somewhat standard. We do have a battle line of repeater crossbows, as well as the basic Dread Spears on the flanks, just to be chaff and have silver shields. And you basically want the Dread Spears to be eating the shots from the Chameleon Skinks with their silver shields and, their low price point. It's usually a little bit more of a cost-effective option for that to happen. And like I said, for the dinos, pretty meta stuff. It's going to be Chameleons backed up by Saurus, double Solar Engine, and Lord Mazdamundi. The big X factor in this game is going to be 4 very elite expensive infantry, all of which cost over 1,000 gold. Now, as far as like the elite infantry go in this matchup, sometimes you will see like double Blackguard. I've seen on a couple occasions triple, but really seeing Sisters as well as Hargoneth Executioners is not common. I think the Hargoneth Executioners brought in as maybe a counterpiece against like a Temple Guard type situation, or maybe just to be a little bit more effective against Saurus. It's hard to tell. Nonetheless here, the Dark Elf army is advancing, and the Chameleon Skinks are doing Chameleon Skink things and just shooting into the troops as they advance and applying poison. 100% should rotate over, start shooting some of the more elite infantry, especially the Sisters of Slaughter. And I think the Lizards have gotten the memo as the Chameleon Skinks are now advancing up, shooting a couple shots at Malekith, but I think their true intention is to wear down the very elite targets here. Also a nice little concave here. A little bit tightly packed, could be potentially weak to a ruination of cities and or a banishment attempt, but the Dark Riders are getting a nice shot volley here onto the Bastillodon with the Solar Engine, probably going to force that bad boy back. And it looks like Dark Riders blitzing through the front line, not really quite sure where they're going. It maybe looked like they were going to be diving to shut down that Solar Engine, but they end up getting caught here on the Skinks. Now the elite infantry going to be making it in, and will be colliding partially with cohorts with the Javelins. I think they had an attack order on the Saurus, and it looks like they do, and the Sisters of Slaughter should be able to bust up these Saurus pretty good. They are the Spear variant, which means they're going to be pretty subpar against infantry, and Sisters of Slaughter, of course, are very fighty. Although Harmonic Convergence will level the playing field, 48-62, certainly a pretty good stat advantage now with that magic support. Now here is the issue with the elite infantry potentially. One good spell can do a massive amount of damage, but thankfully that banishment does go the wrong way, thankfully for the Dark Elf player. And it does kind of rotate into some of the repeater crossbows. Yeah, a couple models might go down there. And now a very good engagement here by Riffle Shuffle. He does get the Arawar armor-piercing Skink cohort to jump on top of the Hargoneth Executioners. And they seem to be trading well. They haven't even popped their buffs yet, but they did kind of get the ambush. On top of that, the Hargoneth Executioners are also poisoned, so there is going to be kind of a dual-pronged issue for them there. Now, taking a look at more of a macro perspective here on the battlefield, Solar Engine sitting quite happily, shooting at the Blackguard on the flanks, who are advancing up with Malekith, and Malekith's going to be dropping a nice Soul Stealer here. It's going to be hitting the Bastillodon, the cohort, all 3 of these units, and his Blackguard are advancing in, while the Sisters of Slaughter, though they did initially have a relatively tough fight against the buffed up Saurus Spears, they seem to be winning the fight pretty decisively now and will eventually get into the back line. Across the other side of the battlefield, the Cold One Riders for Riffle Shuffle have collapsed. The Dark Riders most likely will be used on a flanking maneuver, and it looks like a net of Amatok popped as well from Big Chungus Mazdamundi back here onto the repeater crossbows. Granted, I don't know if there was too much follow-up there. Apotheosis going down on the Saurus should allow them to handily defeat those Dread Spears. Defeat? It's like a weird word combination, but defeat those guys. And the elite infantry for the Dark Elves are pretty beat up, but that's the thing. Sometimes elite infantry will take a beating, but there's a reason why they're elite. They have high armor, good leadership. They're a tough unit to remove, and if it gets to the late game, ammunition gets sparse, things like that start to happen, they can certainly take the game back over. So Malekith here has a pretty good jump on his Velociraptor, a couple spears in his head. He's all good. He's a Witch King, no problem. But he is going to be going after the Bastillodon, trying to wear that bad boy down. And that would be a really nice catch. The Bastillodon's, of course, a very powerful tool here if they can just sit and shoot the entire game. Both the Bastillodons around half ammunition. This one does have 9 shots. This one has 11. And the Blackguard still pushing through. The other Blackguard, pretty unfortunate situation for them. They're just being dragged through the mud by a million Chameleon Skinks here. But, they're tanking it like champs. They're 100 armor, like I said. not useless here. And now they are being attacked by the Bastillodon, and that might allow them to actually generate some value as they do turn and start beating on that big dinosaur. So looking back at the front lines, Dreadspear's just a bit of a even matchup here in the front with the skink cohorts after taking some damage from Mazdamundi as well. And the Blades of the Blood Queen were able to kill the skink cohort Arawar to the last man, or the red-crested skink, I should say. 864 value, not bad, pretty close to getting their money back. And, you know, they're still going strong, still pushing through. And now suddenly the Lizard front line is in a little bit of trouble. Yeah, it looks like it's almost non-existent, to be a little bit more accurate here. We do have some Saurus Warriors here with Mazdamundi. All the repeater crossbows are still functional, shooting into the Cold One Spear Riders here in the flank. And the dinos are really being forced to fall back with the Chameleon Skinks, who of course are shooting into the elite infantry, doing good value, but Malekith has been on the hunt, man. Gaze of Malice going down, will it do good damage? It does get a nice square impact there with the Chameleons, maybe taking out a model or two, but more so doing good HP damage. But Malekith has been very, very sticky this game. And here he is on top of the Bastillodon with the Solar Engine, putting it down to sub 1000 HP, negative 18 leadership. And he's going to be jumping on over to the other Solar Engine to make sure that thing can't shoot. But this can't happen. I mean, if all the infantry do run out for the Dark Elves, the Chameleon Skinks heavily outtrade the repeater crossbows if they have ammunition left, and even in melee, they'd probably be a little bit stronger due to their poison. But it's going to be a very, very close game, man. Dark Elves are actually a little bit ahead, and though all the elite infantry are more or less dead, they did absorb and weather much of the storm, which allowed several other elements, most namely Malekith, to just kind of rampage through the battle lines here. So Malekith moving in, going after the Solar Engine once again. 0 leadership. I think the other Solar Engine might still be on the run. Dark Riders trying to chase it down, but they're probably just going to get terror routed, because you can't actually be terror routed when you're chasing a unit that causes terror. It's a very strange thing, but I mean, I guess just because something's running away doesn't mean it's still not scary to your, psychology. But yeah, discussion for another day. Malekith here on the hunt, just sticking on top of these Solar Engines. Basically, probably just sitting on a Soul Stealer as well, just hoping that in the later stages of the game, he'll be able to Soul Stealer down all the Saurus. And let's see what the Dark Elves have in terms of support units. So repeater crossbows here with about half ammunition. That's something that's been doing very well for the Dark Elves, is their ammunition conservation. He has a lot left. I mean, he's got like 40% here, 50% plus here, and these ones are still in pretty good health as well. And the Chameleon Skinks have used almost all of their ammunition shooting at the Black Guard as well as Malekith, and though they did wear down the elite infantry, now in the fourth quarter of the game, the repeater crossbows are going to have a lot of stopping power to shoot out pretty much whatever they want. These Saurus are shielded, and as long as they're facing the missile attacks, they will be getting their bronze shield benefit. It looks like right now this Chameleon Skink unit could be moving up to get some nice shots. And Malekith in the back, ooh, this is going to be big. That's a nice Gaze of Malice right there. That's going to do some serious damage, and those Skinks really, really just get annihilated by the Witch King. He's gone pretty wild on his Velociraptor. As far as his value accrued so far, probably not quite in Marathi territory, which he usually gets, but really not bad at 2100, and, you know, a little bit more tanky, right? If you had Marathi trying to chase down those Solar Engines, like we saw earlier, with her low armor, the Chameleon Skinks and some of the other units probably would have been able to do lethal damage to her. Like, she would not have been able to stay the course, whereas Malekith with his 110 armor and his shield is, you know, actually pretty decent in that situation, and just being kind of a persistent threat. So I really like the kind of uncommon pick here of Malekith. Nowadays, I'm so used to seeing Marathi in every single Dark Elf replay, so when you see someone different, it's quite exciting. But yeah, now he's netted down, fighting some Saurus. The repeater crossbows trying to get in position. Got to be careful, though. They're getting a little bit danger close to the edge of the map, which means that some of them might just rout off. Like, that unit still had enough ammo to be a bit of a playmaker there, but it does rout off, unfortunately, for the Dark Elves. And now it looks like the Sisters of Slaughter, still going strong, are able to sandwich these Chameleon Skinks, and they're 100% going to get broken and or chased off the battlefield. Sisters racked up about 80 kills over the course of this game. Balance of power is still very, very close. This is an absolute scrap between these two players. I believe this took place in one of my ECLs. I'm not sure. I think this was a tournament game, and you can certainly feel the energy of it. And here comes the Sisters, 39 models. I honestly think that those 38 Sisters, even in their very tattered, beleaguered state, probably will do a huge number on these Saurus. Granted, Saurus are no slouches. They do have over 50 weapon strength. So 34 models, 32. They've got the Saurus down to 43. Man, they're whipping them real good. And of course the poison a big factor. The physical resist quite substantial at 20%. So down to 38, down to 29. It looks like these Sisters are heavily outpacing the Saurus. Has to be the combat stats, right? 37, 57 against, 29, 34. With the poison coming into play too, putting the Saurus weapon strength down to 41. That's pretty massive. Man, Sisters of Slaughter, very cost effective if they can get into the right situations. Anyways, it looks like they will be breaking right as I heap praise upon them due to the flank of the Chameleon Skinks, and there are, a lot of them. It looks like there's 63 right there. Malekith is, he's not stopping, man. He's on the Velociraptor train here, and he's coming for blood. Looks like this Bastillodon going to be broken. Rallying there for a second, but I think it's actually just naturally broken. Malekith's just going to probably do his best to chase that down. Other repeater crossbows pulling back at this point. We do have a couple dread spears moving in to fight against these skinks as the last of the Sisters of Slaughter are broken off. And Malekith, yeah, just stuck in combat a little bit, but I think he's kind of okay with this, simply because he probably has some witchcraft in his back pocket. I think we've seen all the charges of the Gaze of Malice. I don't think we're going to be seeing another one, but man, oh man, a Gaze of Malice right here would be just so destructive. And it looks like this could potentially be just like a massive soul stealer. I mean, the Lizards have piled in a lot of resources, and Lord Mazdamundi sitting over here on his toilet seat as well. So he's certainly going to be included in that love right there. So looking around, 14 Sisters coming back in. We do have 36 repeater crossbows, and these ones probably going to come back in with 22 models. Chameleon Skinks are about out of ammunition, so all the counter skirmishing here from the dinos is running very, very low, and it looks like Malekith able to escape his pen, and now he's going to be going after Mazdamundi, who does get a nice little apotheosis on himself. Trying to move away and use his Saurus and Skinks to pile in and peel off Malekith, but I think Malekith's going to be too much, honestly. Very, very cool stuff seeing the Witch King in action, man. Repeater crossbows, ammunition is going to be 3 on this unit. This one rocking 6. Probably enough ammo to finish off Lord Mazdamundi so he can try and run, but I do not think he's going to be able to get away, as the repeater crossbows are going to be ripping a big shot right into the big toad's face, and he is down to about 651 HP. Malekith's still fighting here, probably banking Winds of Magic at this point. Does he have any other spells? No, it looks like he just brought Soul Stealer, so obviously that's the best spell that the Dark Elves usually have. It's either Soul Stealer or, you know, Lore of Manticore Summoning or Lore of Fire, depending on the matchup. Like against Tomb Kings, like Lore of Fire is going to be better probably than, you know, Lore of Soul Stealer, so just really depends on the circumstances. Stand your ground going down here from the Witch King, going to make him that much more durable against the Saurus with his 79 melee defense versus the 29 melee attack of Saurus. He's going to be very, very tough to actually hit here. And the repeater crossbows are just kind of Benny hilling around the map, which is quite hilarious. They're trying to avoid the pursuing chameleons, who are pretty quick. They have, what is it, 48 speed right here. Yeah, they're an issue, man. And that's the thing, like, if the repeater crossbows aren't able to get, you know, value, I mean, it's not like the game is over 100%. Malekith could be worn down under the right circumstances, like having a ton of chameleon skinks kind of surrounding him, poisoning him, and just prison shanking him. If Mazdamundi is permitted to live, is going to be a problem. But it looks like the Dark Elves do officially get away here. And the chameleons with a very nice intercept here by Riffle Shuffle. He does move in and is able to surround Malekith. Malekith is at 62 kills. His value's got to be well over 3,000 right now. Only 2,800. I'm surprised. He looks like he was doing a lot, but before the game's over, I'm sure he will get up over 3,000. So bounce power going into the favor of the Dark Elves once again, as Malekith continues to bump and grind. Here we get a charge coming in from the repeater crossbows onto the skinks, the chameleon skinks, and they're holding firm with 414 HP. Should be able to defeat these repeater crossbows in combat. Depends on the leadership situation. And no, it looks like there are going to be reinforcements coming in. The Dark Riders running down my most hated unit in the entire game. I hate playing against chameleon skinks. It's like the worst feeling in the world. It's not that they're like OP, it's just that they're just very irritating, just like with their missile resist and their poison, and it's just so tough to kill them. It's mainly because I'm an Empire player, and playing like Empire heavy cavalry into chameleon skinks is like one of the worst feelings in the world. It's just like, oh god, I have like 52 speed now after the poison, and I just can't catch them. So Malekith going for blood. We haven't seen any magic in a long time, so I think he's really just waiting till it's absolutely necessary to close out the game, and it looks like it is going to be army losses. GG, well played. That was a really fun game, and Lord Chungus does go down there at the very end. So let's break it down. Let's take a look at the armies. Now, repeater crossbows, very solid. I think the biggest MVP for the Dark Elves was Malekith, hands down. His performance of like single-handedly chasing down both solar engines, I think just won them the game. If those solar engines had been less harassed, I think that the Lizards would have been able to accrue just probably too much value for the Dark Elves to come back. So Malekith was the biggest MVP, and he accrued, you know, around 3,000 value to reflect that. Now, as far as the elite infantry goes, this is probably what a lot of you guys are curious about. 1,000 here, 900 here, 490, and 554. So you can't just look at a unit based on its value and say it was trash. Like, they did take a beating. Pretty much all of the chameleon skinks, the elite infantry and the solar engines were shooting them, and they still weathered and fought to the fourth quarter of the game. Now, I can't say whether or not it would have been better if the Dark Elves just spent that money on a wider army with like Bleak Swords and Dread Spears. That's probably the more proven tactic, but still, I think they had their merit for sure, especially the Sisters. They fought pretty hard into the late game. But yeah, it was quite a bit of fun to see Malekith in the elite infantry, and Riffle Shuffle's build was good as well. I think both players were very capable of winning that game. Probably a couple situations with the Coldwind Riders just not getting good engagements was a little bit problematic, because then they couldn't fight off Malekith. Because once they were gone, there wasn't really much in the army that could actually like stop Malekith from rampaging, right? And I think that was the big issue. But very well played to Zeistin here, as well as Riffle Shuffle. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I don't know if this is Zyphos in disguise or something, or you just playing under a different name. I don't know. It's an ODM clan, and I suspect it might be Zyphos, but I'm not sure. So anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, and we will be back with more replay soon. very excited for Warhammer 3 on the horizon, man. I'm itching for it. It's going to be good. Take care, guys.